Welcome to this week's Threat Intel. My name is Josh Bacon from Volta. On the call with us, we have Tracy Whitlock, Jeff Jarecki, our CISO of Volta. I'm a security engineer, and today we're going to be walking you through some of the biggest stories in security this week. So starting off, very popular spyware vendor is working with ISPs to infect iOS and Android devices. The simple mechanism of action behind this is I can't tell if it's intimidating or imitating the user and shutting their Wi-Fi off and then sending them a message with essentially a malicious app telling them that this is the fix to their problem, or if they actually have people within the ISP who are shutting off users' internets and then allowing them to send these malicious messages. But there are multiple exploits that are being used for this vulnerability, some as far as back as 2018. With the essential idea behind it just being, don't click anything that you don't know isn't from your ISP. I don't think this is something that you can get caught up in if you're smart about the things you're clicking and know where it's coming from.
Yeah, if you read the article, it's kind of hard to tell if it was an insider threat at an ISP or if they were masquerading as users with the ISP to get service shut off so they could step in and white knight for the user. But either way, it all goes back to training. Hopefully you're training your users. If you aren't doing a stellar job of cybersecurity awareness and training, you might be setting your folks up to fall for things like this. So,
yeah. Definitely, any organization that has their users on the habit of clicking links within emails, this is something that you're more than likely going to fall prey to. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure in any case, and especially in this. Train your users, and this won't even be an issue. So next, we have Log4Shell still being used and exploited. I'm sure anyone who originally dealt with Log4Shell could have seen this coming. The basic principle behind Log4Shell is that it's kind of hard to find. It's everywhere. It's in almost anything that's using Oracle Java, and logging with it has some kind of backdoor into it. And they're just getting smarter and smarter with how they can exploit it. But what we're looking at now is a situation so grave that unpatched VMware systems should be considered compromised, essentially. So organizations that haven't yet patched their VM servers are advised to tag them as hacked and start incident response procedures immediately. If you aren't familiar with any incident response procedures, I do recommend this. We will send out a link for that with this chat. But there are multiple ways to form incident response teams. Any of them will work for this scenario. You're basically just trying to do any form of what's the word, Jeff, that I'm looking for?
Prep. I mean, honestly, they, in my opinion, that line is a little misleading because it says unpatched VMware systems. You could have left VMware out. Unpatched systems.
Yeah.
If you have unpatched systems in your environment, you are you're kind of asking for trouble. Listen, the very first phase of incident response, Volta often gets brought in after an incident to come in and save the business. We do a fantastic job there. That's not really where you want to meet us. Ideally, you want to meet us in phase one because it's a lot more cost effective. Ultimately, phase one of incident response is preparation. That's anything and everything you do prior to an incident, which is all of the effort and security work and having your teams lined out, as Josh was relaying, understanding who the appropriate players are and how to address these things. The bottom line is preparation, which, by the way, patching would very much be, it's not really phase one, but it is pseudo part of phase one. If you are not patching your systems on a regular cadence, you are not only leaving yourself open to attacks like this, but to much, much bigger problems as well. So I don't want to undermine how serious Log4j is, but unpatched systems are bad, period.
Right. And as I was saying earlier, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure every single time.
That's right.
Yeah, making sure.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to move on to US. It disrupts an extremely large-scale Russian botnet. If you are a systems administrator, I'm sure you've seen a couple of these fly through your logs at some point. This RSOX proxy service, the idea behind it is you can purchase something like 9,000 proxies per day. And it's simple. You're just sending a lot of traffic through proxies. You can DDoS through this type of situation. You can exfiltrate large amounts of data. There's a million uses for a good proxy, but thankfully there are zero uses for this proxy now, as there has been a replacement of their main website with basically a message that says it's been seized by the FBI. I like these. This is genuinely in these situations, what we're talking about is millions of compromised IoT devices. Like one of these Russian botnets could be the Alexa in your kitchen, essentially.
Well, to read that article, though, I want to be clear. They've shut down the service to purchase those resources.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'm willing to bet all those IoT devices are still vulnerable. They are going to be recompromised on new IPs. It's really, really important that you're doing all the things around network security to protect yourself, which is a critical component to any network security program. All right. So I'm happy to see this, because when it's made so easy that anyone can just hop on a website and go lease, what was it though? It was $30 for 2,000.
$30 for 2,000, yeah.
$30 to use 2,000 proxy IP addresses, so you can do any nonsense you want to any number of services from 2,000 different locations, and it never be traceable back to you for $30. Folks, that should show you how cheap it's gotten, how easy it's gotten.
Yeah, it's the same. Ransomware as a service. It'll be the same, the price. I mean, these people are making this type of malicious software and selling it to thousands upon thousands of people. They're not trying to get one large whale purchase out of these. And as these tools become more and more prevalent and used, it's of the utmost importance that you're making sure you have any type of filtering on your internet, especially DNS filtering, like Cisco Umbrella. Would completely destroy these IoT devices within your environment. So make sure
help me understand the pricing, Josh. Why is it $30 for 2,000 but 200 for 9,000?
Well, these aren't people who worked at a smoothie bar, you know. These aren't the best deals.
It's actually, you're actually paying more at that rate. I don't understand. I mean, really, at that rate, you'd be at about $150. Why would somebody pay the extra 50?
Maybe it's for the volume. Maybe you can't just buy like
Tracy, I don't listen. I haggle for everything. I expect discounts when I'm buying in bulk.
Well, IoT devices are also like, they often have their own creative security that's non-standard, and
good point.
People aren't handling them well. A lot of times they just have default passwords that you can go and look up. Like, if you have IoT devices, you definitely should have them in their own segmented VLANs and not have open Wi-Fi on them.
To Tracy's point, if you are in the IoT space, if you are working with a lot of IoT related technologies, and you don't have a specific arm of security for your IoT devices, if you have not carved out and properly architected how you have provided layered and defense in-depth strategies for IoT, call Volta. Call us and let us help you, because you're not only asking for trouble for yourself and for whatever business process and purpose you have those IoT devices for may be rendered useless and unavailable one day. You're also, in effect, if not properly securing them, aiding cyber criminals in utilizing those devices, because they are very easily captured and manipulated and utilized.
Extremely. As I know it's only being used for proxies right now, but every single proxy that's being used here is another open hole in your environment. I mean, today it could be used as a proxy just for forwarding traffic, but tomorrow it could be the vector for a dropper.
A lot of IoT devices don't have the best encryption or any encryption at all, because most business deployment IoT devices must be as lightweight and resource conservative as possible.
Well, they will have excellent encryption when they are encrypted with ransomware. All right, moving on. Conti ransomware hacking spree breaches over 40 organizations this month. We did our due diligence here. We tried to figure out what the main IOC here was. It genuinely seems that Conti is taken to reverse engineering Windows patches and staying ahead of the zero-day vulnerabilities that come with each of the new patches that are coming out. So Tracy can speak a little bit more to this, but over the last month or so, we've seen VPNs break, we've seen data store break. We've seen almost every feature of Microsoft Windows break in some way. It is held together by a narrow amount of hope and glue.
Windows backup.
We're running out of glue.
Wi-Fi hotspot. Like,
yeah, we're running out of both hope and glue at this point. But
right.
using it as motivation. It seems that they are active about 14 hours every day, reverse engineering these Windows flaws and breaking into, I think it was 40 organizations in a month. Most of these are associated with American business, with the main thing hit being real estate and healthcare. But this is a lot. This is more than even Lapsus was doing at the peak. And keep in mind, Lapsus is not a very technical ransomware group. Lapsus pays people for access, like AT&T, Verizon. This ransomware group Conti is more effective than what is essentially the trust fund child of the ransomware groups, and that's extremely impressive. I know I shouldn't be talking them up. They're terrible people, but I am in security at the end of the day.
It's also they're working with other ransomware gangs.
So this is interesting. I've read an MS-ISAC report specifically on that. And what I'm starting to think is that these ransomware gangs are not actually separate at all. I'm starting to think that they have large groups like TrickBot, Lockbit, all of these groups that are actually the same group that are working within each other and sharing information on places that they've hit, and even backdoors within other organizations.
Hey, sorry about that. I just got dossed by airline traffic overhead. So folks, I want to point something out here around this whole scenario. Ransomware is the #1 thing that we get brought in for post-incident. And so there's a lot of things that you can do leading up to that. And if you all already mentioned this while I was briefly offline, forgive me, but ultimately going right back to that ounce of prevention, it's critical. The more you do now, the better off you are. Ransomware is getting to be a no-brainer event. The script kiddies are into it now. It is not very challenging. And if you don't have a well-trained staff, it is unbelievably easy for them to get in. And once they're in, I noticed it said that they had and this is, listen, if you follow in our circles, you understand what dwell time is, right? Dwell time is the amount of time an attacker is in an environment prior to their discovery, right? So they were stating in this article that on average, it's about 3 days. They're in the environment for about 3 days. I guess the message I want to relay to anyone listening to this is, if you are on the business side or you're on the technical side, or you are concerned that you don't know if there's attackers in your environment, or what a multiple day or an attack like this would do to your business, now is the time to evaluate it, not after the fact. And I can't stress that enough, because there has been numerous stories lately in the news. It was that big college, I forget which college it was. There's a whole college that's been in business for over 100 years. It's gone. They're out of business because of a ransomware attack at this point. Okay. It is commonplace. It's happening with a great deal of frequency. And because these groups, they understand how this works, they're not charging you millions of dollars because they know you won't be able to do it. But it becomes a cost of doing business if you are not setting yourself up safely. You're going to be constantly paying people to allow you to continue running your business, and allowing the people that work for you to continue earning a paycheck and supporting their families and the communities that you live in. So now is the time to prepare for things like this, not after the fact. Okay? Because even when we show up, it takes time to fix this, to resolve these issues, that you won't be doing business. You won't be serving your clients. So,
and that is if you have a solid backup plan in place. That is if you have a good incident response procedure, and not everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off because no one knows who's in charge in those situations. If you are completely unprepared for one of these, you are no longer in business, and that's just how it is.
It's a scary, scary thing.
Oh, it's very scary.
Well,
but we work around scary people and we do scary things. And if you need anything scary done for your organization, please contact us.
That's right. Folks, if any of this has raised an alarm, you don't know what we're talking about because you aren't close enough to this, but you do, you're very involved in your business, or you have any concerns that you aren't set up or prepared for these types of activities, call us. Let us help. Let us explain to you. Let us help you find a way to be able to sleep a little better at night and get your environment set up to be protected against this kind of nonsense. That's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. Be safe. Be careful. Keep an eye open, and don't click any links in emails. Just make it your goal this week to never click a link in an email. Everyone have a good one. Goodbye.